I'm Lawrence Francis, host of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you back to this Sierra de Gredos special series, commissioned for your listening pleasure by DOP Cebreros. In part 1 of the series, in episode 551, I sat down with Danny Landy and Daniel Ramos, where we discussed the region's cultural history and started to explore the changing face of Gredos and the evolving community of winemakers and terroirs. Today's episode was recorded on-site at the Conectando Gredos festival on Sunday the 2nd of June 2024. Held alongside the beautiful reservoir in a protected national park, this annual celebration is the place to meet the winemakers, taste the wine, and enjoy the food of the region. Situated next to a beautiful reservoir, or borguillo, as you'll hear the guests mentioning, where else can you go for a swim in the morning and taste world-class garnacha in the afternoon? Uniquely for this type of event, the DOP Cebreros hosted producers making wines within the DOP, alongside those who are working outside of the DOP, and perhaps most importantly, even those falling under other regions such as DO Madrid. The organisers laid on the Conectando Gredos coach from central Madrid, running to the event around an hour's drive away, and included return transportation to make sure everyone made it back safely. The guests I spoke with perfectly show the diversity of the region, including 4 project owners born afar afield as Germany and Australia, a visiting regional wine expert and importer from the US, and a leading Spanish sommelier who was indeed born in the region. To find out who each of these guests are, do keep listening, and I'll of course be sharing my own reflections on the day as we go through. As you can no doubt tell, on multiple levels, this lived up to the name Conectando Gredos. And I'd encourage you to get involved for next year's event yourself. Simply head to interpretingwine.com/CG. That's C for Conectando and G for Gredos. Complete a short form and you'll be the first to know when booking opens for this event next year. Enjoy! First up on the day was great friend of Interpreting Wine, Daniel Ramos of Bodegas, Daniel Ramos. Indeed, Daniel originally featured way back in episode 7. And as mentioned at the time, Daniel was a real pioneer in the region, engaging with local producers who had often been forced to abandon their vineyards owing to the low grape prices and a reducing workforce, with many youngsters tempted away from the region by the bright lights of Madrid, just an hour away. On the day, Daniel and I got to talk about the event itself, why it's so important that consumers and producers enjoy themselves when it comes to wine, and also captured a sense of his anticipation looking ahead to the day.
This is our second Conectando Gredos now, but I remember last year, and I can see what's going on this year, and then it's like, wow, we're changing, we're improving. People, all the producers coming with a smile in their face. We're all friends. We're all, saying hello. We miss you. We miss each other, because our day-to-day doesn't let us enough time to get together. So this is the perfect fiesta for people to know us, but also for us. I think it's something that we owe to ourselves, to know more people, younger people coming along, to get together, to share, to just enjoy and have fun, for sure.
Absolutely. And I got to say, that's one thing that I always love about the way you communicate, be that in person, be that online, is this idea of enjoyment. Because, at the end of the day, we can make wine, especially when it's being communicated in the markets, we can make it so complicated. We can make people feel like they need to know all about the grape varieties, all about how it's made. And I believe it's driving people away. People are going to places where there isn't that expectation, where they can just drink something tasty at the end of a hard day's work, and they can just relax with their friends and family without analysing the hell out of it. So, just Where does that come from? Just that simplicity that you have in your communication of just, let's just enjoy this, guys. It's just a drink, surely.
Well, it's how I really understand life. And something very important in my life is wine. So if I think that you have to enjoy life, wine is in my life, well, just enjoy wine. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a super knowledgeable guy about wine, about aromas, about sensitivity when you're tasting. No. There's a lot of people that come along and tell me, oh, I really don't know about wine. The next thing that I tell them is, I don't know either. After 30 years in this business, I can tell you that I don't know a lot of things about wine, no? And each day I keep on learning and it keeps on surprising me. That's why I'm here. Because if this was maths, I would get bored about it, no? And I think that maths can advance, no? But as far as I know maths, it will be boring for me right now. But wine is all about life, and life changes, in this case with wine, every year. And that's what makes it so sensitive, emotional. So if something is sensitive and emotional, enjoy it. You don't have to analyze it. Just enjoy it, have fun, and that's it. There's nothing more about it.
I love it. And best of all, and I really wish, and I will be sharing pictures about today and videos about today, but it's already, 11 o'clock, 11:30, temperatures starting to rise up. I know there's more than 300 professionals on their way to enjoy, but to learn, to converse. What are you feeling now? We're second year of what I hope and I believe will be a continuous, regular, annual fiesta on the first Sunday of June every year. What are you feeling now, Daniel?
Well, I'm feeling that I'm just happy. Yeah. I'm enjoying. Enjoying the moment. Everyone that is going to come, everyone that is already here, all the producers. So it's all about that, no, that sensation. And it doesn't matter if we're 30 like this year or over 30 producers, and next year we're 10. It is about just being here, enjoying, and showing what we got and how we do it, and that's it.
Yeah. And really, for me, one of the most interesting things about the group of producers that's going to be here, more than 30 producers, is really that I believe the smaller amount, not even the majority, actually are members of the DOP Cebreros, and that actually you're doing what it says on the tin. Conectando Gredos is truly conectando all the different producers that make wine in Gredos, and kind of putting aside, in a way, exactly their kind of regional affiliation. But I guess it's just, to me, it seems as though the idea of Gredos, the sense of place of Gredos, is just kind of bigger than anything else that's out there. I just, your reflections on kind of that group and that mix that, again, I think truly reflects that name, Conectando Gredos.
Yeah. Over here, we just have one identity, and it's Gredos. Gredos is the thing that gets us all together, no? And it doesn't matter if you make 500 bottles, you make 100,000 bottles, 1 million bottles, if you make natural wine, conventional agriculture, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is about Gredos and showing what we do, how we do it, and sharing on top of all, no? And sharing this little space of Gredos and all the wines that we make and we've got to share here.
Okay, and final question for you, because I know you've got to get back, and you got a table to man, and you're right next to the door, so I'm not going to get a second with you the rest of the day, I'm sure. Normally, I would say in my podcasts, my style is not to generate FOMO, fear of missing out. I want people to just imagine that they're here and that they're kind of part of the scene, which I hope they will feel as well. But I think as well, because we're by the time this interview is posted, we're going to be some months still from Conectando Gredos 2025. I think it's worth thinking ahead. I hope we're all on the same page. I hope we're all thinking long term. What would you say to those people, who've never been to Gredos, perhaps never been to Madrid, that love wine, that work in and around wine? What can they learn? What can they expect from coming to this event next year?
Well, the first thing that I have to say is come to enjoy. And that's something that I'm saying all the time, enjoyment, So come to enjoy. And then come and see how much beauty this area can offer you, the sights, the people, the orchid gardens, the vineyards, nearly everything, the wild. It's all incredible, So Gredos isn't only about wine. Wine is just something that is jumping into this area, but there's much more than that, And as I said, the little towns that we've got with all that incredible people that live there, all those little businesses, all those orchid gardens, the old people that take care of them, and eating and dreaming health. You can breathe health here, and that's also something beautiful.
Daniel Ramos, as ever, super eloquent and super passionate about this region that he calls home. Next up was Barbara Requejo of Bodega Las Pedreras. Wines that are making a real splash in the international market, reaching the UK and US, among others. And since moving to the region from her native Ribera del Duero, Barbara has become a key figure in the winemaking community. Indeed, keep listening and you'll hear other guests mention how much she's helped them in developing their projects. For me, our conversation perfectly captures a sense of the location, being as it was, open air at the start of summer, and the point in the day full of excited winemakers and arriving attendees.
Hi everyone, I'm Bárbara Requejo. I'm the winemaker and co-founder of Las Pedreras, Viñedos y Vinos in Villanueva de Ávila. I'm here in Conectando Gredos, where we are showing our wines and trying to embrace people to come to Sierra de Gredos and to try our amazing wines from Grenache and from Albello Real varieties. I arrived in Gredos in 2017 as a technical director, and since the very first moments that I arrived to Gredos, I was completely falling in love with the landscape and the all vineyards that we have here. Such a great and amazing potential that we have here. So it's great that Conectando Gredos is made in an open place, just in the territory, so people come here and see the landscape, which is so important for us. And yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, and absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think, open air, start of June in the north of Spain. It really is beautiful. It's right on the cusp of becoming summer, but it's not too hot yet. The nights are still cool, and the fair is literally just opened, so the grounds are filling up now, and I think the energy is really good. Before this second edition, I would just invite you to reflect a little bit on last year's fair, because I know that you were also part of the first ever Conectando Gredos in June 2023.
Yeah, well, this is the second time that we are doing this event that has been promoted by the DOP Cebreros. The first time, as for everything, first times are tricky. So I think it was a much smaller event. There was less people, which is great that we are growing and everyone is getting really interested on the event. Well, I will say the place for sure. When people arrive here to the Valle de Iruelas, next to the Burguillo, I think the most shocking thing for the people that came last year was the landscape and the place. Yeah.
And I think this, for me, is all about Conectando Gredos, because I think that word, connecting Gredos, it has so many meanings. I think it connects the producers with the people who are primarily coming from Madrid and people like myself coming from outside. I think it connects as well in between the vignerons. You get to actually, reconnect with each other, to share wines, to catch up, to speak, to laugh, to share. And of course, it connects those producers who even, are not members of the DOP Cebreros. I think it almost elevates Gredos as an idea, as a concept, beyond any one DOP or any one sort of region. It's just this idea that's, I guess, it's kind of bigger than us all. Would you, have I missed anything? Would you say? Are there any other sort of connections that you think you see being made, or that you hope will be made from an event like today?
No, I think you put it just exactly as it is. Gredos is a really big area. Many different DOPs are involved in Gredos Mountain. So it's amazing when we all get together here and we see new projects and small projects. It's amazing that people is putting a lot of effort and time and making wines from this area. So yeah, I think you put it perfectly.
Okay. Thank you very much. Final question, really. This podcast is listened to in many countries, so the United States, the UK, Scandinavia, Australia, lots of countries of Europe as well. So what message would you send to somebody who's listening, who maybe has never visited Gredos, maybe has never yet tried a DOP Cebreros or a Sierra de Gredos wine? What can you kind of say to them to, I guess, throw the door open and invite them into this amazing world?
I will say that for everyone that is doing a trip to Madrid or to the nearby, please take a day or a couple of days and just do the 2 hours ride that you have to do from Madrid to Gredos. And because people here is super invested, we love when when people visit and take the time to spend time with us at the wineries and the vineyards. So for everyone that is visiting Madrid or nearby, just 2 hours ride on the car and you arrive to an amazing place, mountain region, such an incredible landscape. Yeah. In our case, every time we have visit of 4 or 3 people. We love them to bring them to the winery and to the vineyards, and there are also trekking routes, which is really also are amazing. So you can visit the landscape. Yeah, it's tricky in terms of wine tourism. It's still a working process.
Yeah, and honestly, I said this last night with Danielle, and I firmly believe it as well, that can be a big positive. Why? Because I think so much of, the old world, the classics, it's like, a lot of the major developments is already happened. People have already mapped out all of the best growing sites. They've experimented already with all the different grapes, and it's a known quantity. But I do believe that almost that's the unfair advantage of a region like Sierra de Gredos, is that it's so unknown, it's recovering from, near extinction, and almost the future is completely open, and I feel as though it's open for Spanish people, but it's open for people from outside to, as you say, to visit and to get involved in any way that they want to as well.
Yeah, of course, Gredos has, from the very beginning, has been a region that showed to the outside of Spain also, and for everyone that visit, the experience is great. And we can really talk here about the mountain region. We can try to describe it, but when you arrive here and you see the light, you see the colors that we have right now on the Sierra with the piornos, yellow. Just when you are super lucky and you have a day that is sunny, but the day before was rainy, and you see the walls of the mountain reflect the light, it's amazing. But you have to be here in order to really have the full experience.
There you go, beautifully put by Barbara. You have to get yourselves out there to really get the full experience. But that being said, I really hope that so far you're getting a sense of just how much the winemakers were anticipating the day, and really I would say how much it is in their DNA to share the amazing bounty that they have with anyone who's interested to know more. We switch things up a little bit now, featuring another great friend of interpreting wine, Ariana Rolich of AR Wine. At this year's Conectando Gredos was actually the first time that we'd met in person. However, back in 2017, when interpreting wine was just starting, Ariana was incredibly helpful in suggesting producers to feature and encouraging me that people around the world would be interested in the stories direct from the producers in places like the Sierra de Gredos. In this conversation, Ariana shares details of the first wines that blew her mind from Gredos, and also gives her point of view on the moment in time that Gredos is currently enjoying, and asks the question, where else in the world can you be in the room when the region is being mapped out? And I think her descriptions beautifully capture the personality of the producers and the place.
My name is Ariana Rolich, and I have a company called AR Wine. I'm an importer of wine only from Spain to the United States, based in New York. And my trajectory, started I worked in restaurants for a number of years, and then once I switched to retail, I really started digging deeper into Spain. We're talking retail in New York City. I became the Spanish wine buyer and manager of Chambers Street Wines in Manhattan, where we had a pretty important program for importing our own wines. And that's when I started really poking around Gredos. I'd already been traveling around Spain, and I knew that Gredos was speaking.
Yeah.
So I started digging deeper, asking everyone who I need to know, who I don't know. And that was 2014 was my first trip here.
Okay.
And so, a decade, exactly. May 2014. And here we are.
Yeah. And interestingly, I love that you've shared you knew something was happening, something was speaking to you. Would you mind just saying a bit about that? Almost in that moment, what, was it a person? Was it a wine? What was the hook that kind of has obviously led to what it's led to afterwards?
The hook, even before I got here, landed in Gredos for the first time, was late 2012 or early 2013. And I was tasting the wines of Maldivinas. I don't know if you remember Maldivinas, Guillermo and Carlos, who were working with both Garnacha on both granite and schist in Cebreros. I tasted their wines, so their granite cuvee, their schist cuvee, next to Daniel Ramos's wine, the lineup of that era, which was, the ones coming into the States were like the Copy Red, Copy Rosado, Los Chorancos, which to this day, 2010 Los Chorancos is the Gredos wine that has most blown my mind, to be honest, on the checking the basic boxes of what is electric about this region.
Sure.
So I tasted through these 6 or 7 Gredos wines, and I had a whole office full of, a whole table full of wines to taste. And I went back to the start, and I just kept on tasting through these Gredos wines and scratching my head, asking the questions of the woman who had found them and came here and tasted them and brought them to the States. And my mind was blown, and I was hooked. And once I came here, Gredos, 10 years later, Gredos blows my mind wide open every time I come here, and I come here multiple times per year, Yeah. So that was the hook. The hook was the granite and pizarra side by sides, which still blow my mind to this day. And we're in a park full of them today. So we're the luckiest people. We're the luckiest people in Spain for sure.
Yeah. And that was exactly where my mind was going, because it's almost like, in a way, it's like an adult playground here, isn't it? Because as you say, if you love Spain, as I do, there's so many hooks, the culture, the food, the people, the language. There's so much that I love, and I believe you love about Spain. And then you go into one, tiny region, really, relatively, a tiny region, and still relatively unknown region, but almost, what is that saying? Like, you almost have the whole world within this tiny microcosm, it's like everything that's kind of there for you. But then to take it to its next iteration, its next level, it's then come to life and all concentrated in one spot. So I'm really curious just to get your feel for what it's like to be here in Conectando Gredos with 30 plus producers, all from Gredos, all on different sites, all with different philosophies, all with different stories and backgrounds. How does that feel?
Honestly, it's quite emotional. Looking around and seeing the people who first welcomed me here when I first started coming 10 years ago, and nothing was obvious to me then. Nothing was easy. Everyone was so kind and engaged with my process of asking a million questions about things that were brand new to me, that weren't brand new to them, but they were still super tantalized, by their raw material, as much as I was coming here for the first time. So seeing that handful of people, that core of people who have always been a part of my experience here, and then every single visit after that, what I say to my customers and my colleagues in New York is that if you've ever wanted to be in the room, quote unquote, during the formation of a wine region, like I always wanted to be in the room when Barolo was being mapped out, and everyone was probably at each other's throats trying to fight for what they knew was best for their incredibly prodigious region, right? That's happening now, and we're in that room, and then I say, like, so we're lucky to have our eyes on this, and then we're lucky because every time you set foot into Gredos, there's someone making wine in a village or from a part of a village that we've never tasted, bottled on its own before. It's been blended into a regional wine or a co-op wine, or, we're in that moment where the personalities are rising up, and it's the personality of the producer and the personality of the place all in one, and you need many places and many personalities to keep that project growing. Yeah. And with 31 producers here, and maybe like 75% of them having been people who I didn't know, either they weren't making wine or I didn't know their wines when I first started coming here. It's incredibly emotional.
And I think I completely agree. It was, if you want to call it fate, if you want to call it good luck, now with more than 500 episodes of Interpreting Wine out there, one of the very first people I came across to visit was Daniel Ramos. So yeah.
Yeah, Daniel.
And you're right. It's just we're where we're meant to be, I think. But I think really, kind of in closing, I would just like to get a bit meta, as I sometimes like to do. Though I just feel as though this conversation, me being here, recording this for the audience, you being here, I think it's also a sign of, in the point that Gredos and the DOP finds itself, they are, as well as you say, forming themselves and discovering themselves in so many ways, because there is so much to discover. They're also being, I believe, incredibly open, doing it in public, really, building in public, inviting people in from outside, English-speaking podcasters, importers from New York and internationally, and also Spanish podcasters as well, which I think is fantastic. More people need to sort of hear about that and kind of need to know about that. And just your reflections on that part of the story, just the fact that they are doing all of this amazing things. They've got all this amazing wine. They've had a challenging recent history, but they're also just being so open and so transparent, I think, in many ways.
I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that before, but it's kind of, in this wine world, there are many occasions when I've wanted to say, or I've actually said, like, help me help you. And I think the way you put it, being open, it's like this is a young DO and a young region in terms of, Gredos as we know it, that's not afraid to kind of take things step by step and ask. I don't know if it's like asking for help, but in inviting people into the conversation in different modalities. And I would say, that applies to the producers as well. Like, I know that they're in the room working hard on the next steps, and that not everyone's going to be on the same page with these kinds of things. So I think both internally and in terms of talking to people like us, that they're it's part and parcel with not being in a rush. I think, like, DOs have to be successful economically, but I think rushing that is probably something that is clear doesn't always work. And I think that, I'm super focused in Spain. I work in Catalonia, Canary Islands, Gredos, and Galicia. Yeah. And Catalonia was already established when I got into this game. And I would say that Gredos, among the other three that are, I think, less established commercially, has the greatest chance at communicating their potential for success and finding it faster. But I think that's because they're not in a hurry. I don't know if that's too much, too meta. But it's something that, like, when you see how things kind of operate on the inside, you see the difference, and you see that this is a region that's not afraid to make mistakes, but they're also not courting disaster. I think they're being very thoughtful about it, and the proof of that is that, after, I would say, like 7 or 8 years of dreaming of people, of customers, of sommeliers and retail buyers, knowing the word Gredos, they do now. Even the ones who aren't focused on Spain, they know that they can ask for a Gredos wine. There are various price points, various personalities, various villages that they can explore. And that is a huge success for a region that's defined by its youngest DO in a way, which is, the DOP Cebreros that we're talking about. So the success is already coming.
Having now shared 3 of 6 interviews recorded on the day, I wanted to include a halfway reminder to get involved with this incredible region and be a part of its evolution, with an open invite thrown to you from producers at all levels within the region. The easiest way that I know that you can get involved is to consider attending Conectando Gredos in 2025. Located just an hour away from Madrid, you'll get to meet many of the guests from today's episode. And in just a day, taste from the pioneers and the new projects that are starting up all the time in the region. To learn more, just head to interpretingwine.com/CG, that's C for Conectando and G for Gredos, to register interest in learning more. Next interview I had was with Doreen Auerbach, co-owner with husband Christian Martin of the new project Vino y quedó. Doreen, not only hailing from outside of Spain, but also having recently moved to the region from Barcelona. She shares the idea that Grenache from Gredos is different from all others. And I think importantly also that it's still possible to start a project in Gredos, which hasn't yet experienced the crazy price increases of other better known Spanish regions.
Bienvenidos, welcome to Gredos. We are here with Lawrence at Conectando Gredos. It's nice to see people having a glass of wine in their hands. And for us, my husband and me, it's the first time we are at the wine fair with our project. It's called Vino y quedó, which means she came and stayed. That applies for me. I'm originally German, coming from Saxony, but I've been living for 20 years in Spain now. And last year we moved from Barcelona to Gredos to actually be near the vineyard we purchased the year before. And we have been making wine for 9 years already, but this year is the first time we put the label on the 2023 vintage. So we are very proud. Today we just got the label out on Thursday, so the bottles are still hot. And yes, we are working with Grenache, Garnacha de Gredos, making a rosé, a red, and we purchased a little bit of Carignan, so 3 wines. And what we are looking for is a lighter style of wine. Actually, the wines we are purchasing are mostly coming from Beaujolais. We are really Beaujolais lovers, and what we try to do is a bit this kind of style here in Gredos. That means early vintage, early harvest. So actually our Grenache was harvested the 13th of August last year.
Oh, wow.
And everybody in Trapero said, "You're crazy, it is far too early." But yes. But I think in order to understand the wines of Gredos, you really have to come. You have to see the place. You have to understand how we work, because we and everybody in the zone, because it's basically all manual, small plots, and very old wines. We are talking about wines about 80 years old. So our yields are very low. So in a good year, we count with 1,000 kilos per hectare. And yeah, for us especially, because we are a very small project, right now we are talking about 1,500 bottles. So everything is manual. Yeah. And we do it, the both of us, Christian and Doreen. I think I didn't mention my name before. Yeah. I'm sorry. You have now. I have now. Yeah, and I'm really happy that now we get a little bit more of attention in the world. And as I just said to Lawrence, Gredos is well known in New York, but if you go to France, everybody says, "What? Where?" Yeah. You have to say, "An hour from Madrid." Ah, Madrid. So most of the people might think the vineyards are actually in the capital of Spain. You now got to know this nice place. Yeah. And yeah, really I would like to see more faces here from abroad, so we can really reach more people with fresh wines and not the old style Gredos, which was a lot of alcohol and a lot of extraction. So actually people in the village, they say, well, what you do is not really wine. For them it's too light, but for us it's the way to go.
Okay. And I think you did such a fabulous job there of kind of weaving together all of those elements, what you're doing, what we're doing here today and what we're seeing, and as well throwing that door open to the listeners who are all over the world, who maybe haven't been to Gredos, who maybe haven't tried Gredos wines, to actually start to become curious about trying the wines, about visiting, and hopefully coming to Conectando Gredos 3.0 next year. But in a sense, because you've done that kind of so well and so thoroughly, I do want to really just ask one question about really why Gredos. It sounds as though you were from Germany, you were in Barcelona, you were looking outside, you had a lot of choice of places then. So why Gredos?
Well, basically there are 2 points. We really think the Grenache from Gredos is different from all other Grenache we could find in Spain. Actually, my husband is from Tarragona, which is very close to Priorat, where we have great Grenache and Carignans. But when I first tried the bottle of Gredos in 2013, I think, in Barcelona, I said, I want to know this place. And I really fell in love with the place. So I came to make a harvest with some people here. And this was just like this first flash. You say, these old wines, you have to keep them. And still, today we have many people that are too old to take care of the vineyards. We are still losing a lot of vineyards. Now people are planting new wines, but we really have to take care of this heritage. This is one part, and out of this is the other part, which is the financial one. If you can't go to Rioja or to Priorat to purchase a vineyard, that's impossible for normal people. Yeah. And basically these were the 2 reasons, to take care of the old vineyards and to be able to purchase a vineyard.
I'm so happy that this has come up, because it has come up in other podcasts that I've done in the past. For example, I remember this coming up in the United States, in Washington State. Is this kind of getting known as somewhere that, okay, if you are from outside, if you've got an interest in wine, if you want to start something, you've got an itch, this can be somewhere that you can do it still. California maybe is kind of out of the price range. And I think it's also an important point to make about Gredos as well, about accessibility. And I'm just curious then, maybe because yourself and your husband have moved from outside, are you maybe as well, I don't know, kind of getting contacted by people who are kind of thinking of doing a move from somewhere else to Gredos, or are you aware of others who are kind of doing a similar thing, that it's maybe attracting people as well as people who maybe are from the region who might have left in the past? It's also attracting completely new people.
Yes, we do see especially younger people. We are in our 50s, but we see now guys that are between 25 and 30 coming in. That's nice to see. But, well, there are people also from other regions in Spain. But I think it's also a big move to leave a big city like Barcelona and come to a village. This might not be for all youngsters, because it's totally different. But, sometimes people are asking that it's not a very famous region, and Madrid is close. In 1 hour we are there, but still you have to be kind of changing your mind what means living in a village.
And if people hear this, you don't mind them getting in touch with you and asking you about...
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. We are here to welcome everybody. We would like to see more people here and to build a bigger community, because we love wine, and actually in Cebreros we don't have a single place for a nice wine. And
like a wine bar, you mean?
No.
Okay.
And we would also like to see people coming and opening these places to say, okay, there is a community of wine growers, and we want to have a place to go to meet, to take nice wines and to exchange our thoughts.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think, as you say, first Sunday of June every year now. I think that's marked in the calendar. The stake has been put down. But as you say, where is there to go in September or in February? I think actually having a destination. Of course, you can go to the wineries themselves, but yeah, having a locale, having a meeting point. I think it would also help the winemakers as well, right? You have actually a home outside of home to kind of meet. So I love that you've thrown the gauntlet down. So hopefully this is helping move that reality along as well. And as always tends to happen, as Doreen helped move thoughts towards hospitality, the next guest I spoke to, which complements this story perfectly, is Sommelier Agustín Trapero. Agustín was actually born in the region, in the village of El Tiemblo, and has since gained international acclaim as a sommelier Indeed, I had the good fortune to be set next to Agustín at a tasting in Via Vinum in Austria a few weeks before, and once I learned he was going to be at Conectando Gredos, I knew I had to speak to him on the ground.
No, Lorenz, pleasure to meet you and pleasure to see you again. Well, my name is Agustín Trapero and I'm sommelier from this actually region. We are at the heart of the Sierra de Gredos, and actually I was born just 4 kilometers from here, which is a small village called El Tiemblo. So it's very nice to have in this wine fair, just at the Burguillo lake and just behind the Sierra de Gredos mountains, tasting this lovely small producer showing some excellent garnachas and Albillo Real.
Yeah. And I think what would be super interesting, because again, I've spoken with producers here, I've spoken with one of the top importers of Spanish wine into New York. And as well, in the previous episode, I spoke about, some of the difficult history of this region, which again, it is in the past, but I think it's important to acknowledge. And I think something that would be really interesting is just to understand really that link between this area, Sierra de Gredos and Madrid, as... What is the, again, your point of view, the perception, maybe some of the challenges, and certainly the opportunities, really, for this wine that's so good, so well regarded, and so close to Madrid?
Yeah, it's true that in the past, all this area was for just basically bold wines. So my grandfather used to produce wine for family and also to sell it to big DOs like Rioja and Ribera del Duero. But thanks to the DOP Cebreros, in 2017, the thing changed, and it's more now focused for quality. We understood that the amount of vineyards that we have here is, the average age of vineyard is 80 years old. So obviously you cannot really expect high production for that kind of vineyard. So the DOP Cebreros really understood that concept and started to kind of believe it. And since then, the present is this. We were seeing today in this fair is like small producers really looking after the small vineyard and really taking what the vineyard can produce. And putting on the side what is in the winery, and getting more kind of interest in the vineyard. It's true that it's a kind of new area. But to be honest, it's very well adopted by the sommelier, because it's the style of the wines that the Sierra de Gredos or DOP Cebreros they produce is very kind of sommelier orientated. It's very gastronomic. Yeah. So I just taste some garnachas, red garnachas with 12.5% alcohol, which is insane. Yeah. If you think about garnacha, suddenly you just start to think about Chateauneuf du Pape, 14% alcohol, 15% alcohol. But this kind of altitudes, that can produce this area, it gives that kind of freshness, that kind of minerality, super floral, elegance and finesse. So yeah, it's a very kind of sommelier orientated. In fact, it's a kind of fashion at the moment with Sierra de Gredos style.
And that's in Madrid. You would
say, yeah, in Madrid, and also when I was in London, starting to kind of especially Landy or Comando G, starting kind of making noise with that kind of garnacha, fine garnacha and velvety garnacha. So definitely they kind of open the doors, but there's a lot of very interesting producers behind.
Absolutely. And again, I don't want to lead you down any particular paths, but I'm just curious. Do you think there is a particular message that you think it's important for the region, for Sierra de Gredos, to make sure that it gets out there, to the US, to the UK, to Scandinavia, where maybe, do you think it's still at that time in its evolution of we're here, step one, we exist, and or you think people are now, as you say, with some successes of some others, people are now curious, and maybe it's time to make sure that they come here and experience it themselves?
Definitely. When we see each other in Vienna, I was talking with some colleagues from Sweden and from Finland, and we also kind of were talking about this wines from this area, and it's becoming very, very important. It's becoming quite serious stuff coming up. But I think what we need to do now is a kind of to be calm and just express what the terroir can give us. You know, I mean, if we have very old vines that produce a certain amount of bottles, stick with it. Don't force it. This is our stamp. I mean, a small production, high quality and fresher style. I mean, just stick with that. I mean, don't try to overdo things because, you know, that's the beauty of this area. Just small productions and quality.
To close the episode, I welcome León, Benazerraf and Begoña Diaz-Urgorri of Bruma Agrícola. Between them, I think the pair perfectly illustrate the current vibe of Gredos, being as they are from Madrid and having bought a vineyard in the area in 2017, and arguably close the circle perfectly, mentioning the influence of both Ruben Diaz and Barbara Requejo. Ruben was one of the producers that Ariana first recommended I connect with in 2017. And as mentioned previously, Barbara has quickly become one of the key members of the local community.
Hi, my name is León Benazerraf. I'm an architect who lives in Madrid. And with my wife Begoña, we started this project, this winery, vineyard, and all what is around project 8 years ago. We are doing it in a place where we are very familiar. We have a house around. And we have been in this neighborhood around for the last 50 years. And in 2017, we had the opportunity to buy a vineyard with very old vines in the very nice place of Cebreros. And it's like 1,000 meters altitude above the sea, and the vines are most of them from 36, 32 and 22, so even more than 100 years. And we decided to start our wine project. And so we had to give a name to it, and the name is Bruma. Bruma Agrícola is the name of the company, and our first wine came out in 2020.
We got involved with the landscape, which is amazing at this area. We have the water, the lake, we have the altitude, we have this nice breeze, and we wanted to belong to the community of the place. Cebreros is the town, the little town, where our vineyards belong. And this is the way of living here, and it has been for years. So we started buying a little vineyard because properties are tiny after inheriting, and we started buying a little one, and then next a neighbor, and then the little neighbor, and then the little neighbor, and we have around
8.5 hectares of vineyard, and
Valverde,
and to have these 8+ hectares, we had to make like 20 whatever buys and sells. You know, they were very small. The wine we are doing is made just with our grapes, and for that we have two great people helping us. One is Barbara Requejo, who is a fantastic person, and it's like an angel in our path. And the other angel is Ruben Diaz, who is also a winemaker, and they are helping us a lot. And we have our practice. We are architects and we are doing our work, but I'm spending half of my time involved in the wine thing because it's so attractive and so.
And for us, landscape is a way of understanding the land, and vineyards is part of the landscape. So working the land, Mariano works the land for us. Working the land is part of the wine. It's the beginning of the wine. So it's like a cycle from the land to the wine, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to develop that idea.
And so the vineyards are in right on the top of the path from Cebreros to El Hoyo. Is right on. It's around 1,000 meters above sea, as I said before, and we're doing. And in Bruma Agrícola, we're doing 3 wines. One is made out of Albillo Real, which is the grape they use for white wines, and we have around 1.5 hectares of these grapes, and Rubén Díaz is working on this wine, and he's the one who is responsible of the quality, which is very good. Our white wine, we are really, really proud of it. And then for the red one, we have two. One is made out of the 8 different parcels, which are together, but they are different. And it's like what they call Vino de Paraje, is like a landscape wine. And then we have another one, which is made out of just one parcel, and it's called El Arenero. And they are both made 100% of Grenache, and these two are elaborated by Barbara Requejo.
I think that it's so interesting that naturally you've named Ruben and named Barbara, who I know and I've met both of them and love them and love their wines. But I think something that you both, I think, are really uniquely placed to talk about is actually the community here. Because again, as I understand, your roots were not from either El Campo and working in the world of wine or geographically here. So, please, again, in whatever way makes sense, talk to us a bit about what that was like. You found, as you say, your two angels, but kind of, what did you find when you first came here? What was the community like, let's say?
Well, for us, this is a joke. Cebreros is España Profunda, which means Madrid is the capital of España, and we are just 1 hour from Madrid, and then you arrive to Cebreros. It takes 1 hour by car, and you are in España Profunda. And people belong to the land, and it's a very special wine community. And for us, it has been such a pleasure to meet all this community, and we think we belong. So this is kind of a treasure for us.
Mm-hmm. And today we're having this fair, which is it's the second year they are doing it, and it's just amazing. It's last year we were 9, and I think today we are like 20 whatever, and so we are doing it's weird for somebody from the place saying that, but we're doing really high quality wines, and we are not very well known, and
we're tiny.
Yeah, but people just need to try these wines,
and we believe in our winery, and we believe we're going to grow just a little bit more, not that much, enough to make it sustainable. And this is our goal, just to make it sustainable and to make the best wines possible.
Yeah. Okay. And final question, really. I think one of the things that always stands out for me about wine is that there's so much that goes into it, all the people, the culture, that all the names that you've mentioned there, and all of the names that have influenced them. There's actually so much that goes into a bottle of good wine. But what I love about it even more so is that on the other side, it is preserved, and it can travel, and it can go out into the world, and I believe it can kind of bottle those stories, and it can then tell them to somebody in Japan or in America or in Scandinavia, in all of these places. And again, as these words and as this podcast does reach many of those places and kind of reaches many of those ears, I'm just curious, what message would you like to sort of transmit or kind of put out there into the world? Because I guess, again, a region that isn't huge, where the DOP is one of the newest, where it's still very unknown, of course you need each other, but then I believe you also need, and through the wine, you can reach those people in all of those different countries as well.
We could say we have bottled the landscape, and we wish you all could taste it, our landscape.
Connecting Gredos. Gredos is not just Cebreros. It also takes parts of Toledo and Madrid, but it's around the Grenache and around the Albillo. And it started really, really simple last year. Now it's like double what it was last year. We are having really, really good wines here. People doing excellent wines, and it would be great if people that are listening to us can travel and visit it. It's worth. They will enjoy, and it's worth.
A huge thanks to all of today's guests being interviewed live at this year's Conectando Gredos. In order of appearance, we had Daniel Ramos, Barbara Requejo, Ariana Rolich, Doreen Auerbach, Agustín Trapero, and finally León Benazerraf and Begoña Diaz-Urgorri. To receive information about the 2025 edition of Conectando Gredos, head to interpretingwine.com/CG. That's C for Conectando and G for Gredos. Complete a short form and you'll be the first to know when booking opens. Next time on Interpreting Wine's DOP Cebreros series, in the third and final series episode, 559, we head out into the vineyards of the Sierra de Gredos. In the company of 3 local producers, we'll be exploring the growing zones of Cebreros, Lanzaita, and Villanueva de Ávila. Getting to grips with the terroir is an important step in understanding regional differences and classifications, which again are being mapped out as we speak. Bringing you an audio guide to a newly re-emerging wine region led by local experts. If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed to be alerted when the episode goes live. See you then.